Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about commercial papers. So whenever we talk about the requirement of funds, every firm or every company requires the funds for its business. Now the question arises about the time period, that means for what time period you require the funds. So the funds can be required for a short-term period or the funds can be required for medium or long-term period. So if the funds are required for the short term, we can say that the company requires the fund maybe for 10 days, maybe for 15 days, maybe for 1 month, 2 months, and maximum up to 1 year. If the company requires the funds for the medium term, that means requirement of funds is for more than 1 year but less than for 5 years. And if the company requires the funds for longer period, it means the requirement of fund is for more than 5 years. It can be 6 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years or more. So that means the funds are being borrowed, or you can say funds are being arranged according to the requirement of funds for the time period. Now when the funds are required for a short term period, that means funds are required for maximum up to 1 year. One of the source to arrange the money is commercial papers. So I can say that commercial papers are issued for a requirement of short term funds. And we have also learned that whenever the funds are required and we arrange the funds, we are going to invest those funds in the business. And whenever we talk about the investment can be for the fixed assets or the investment can be for the current assets. And whenever we talk about the investment for the fixed assets, the investment in the fixed assets can be for a medium term duration or for a long term duration. But if we talk about the investment for the current assets, investment in the current assets is for the short term duration. That means within 1 year, whatever you have invested in the current asset, maybe for the inventories, or I can say maybe for the working capital, it will be converted into cash. So that means operating cycle for the short term funds is maximum up to 1 year. So whenever we want to fund the working capital, that means my short term funds, we have one of the option for the commercial papers. So we can say that commercial papers are issued to fund the requirement of the short term only. Now let's come to the definition of the commercial papers. Commercial paper is an unsecured. So that means first of all you have to remember that whenever you are issuing the commercial papers, the requirement of the commercial papers are issued and they are unsecured. They are not secured, they are unsecured, and we have already discussed that commercial paper are a short-term debt instrument. Now why we are talking about debt? Because whenever we are borrowing with the help of commercial paper, it is considered as a borrowing and we have to pay it back to the investors. And these are issued by the corporations. That means companies issue these commercial papers for meeting their short-term liabilities. Now the question arises for how long the commercial papers are issued and why we are going to issue these commercial papers. Since we have already discussed that whenever you have a requirement for short-term funds, you can have the option of issuing the commercial papers. And we have also discussed that the short-term fund means that you require the funds only for 1 year or maybe less than 1 year. So we can say that commercial papers are issued for maximum up to 365 days. So commercial papers are issued for minimum of 15 days and maximum up to 365 days. So that means 1 year. So over here it's proved that commercial papers are issued to meet the short-term requirement of funds. And we have also discussed that commercial papers are used to fund the working capital requirement of the organization. So you have to remember that whenever you are issuing the commercial papers and whatever funds you have arranged with the help of commercial papers, you cannot utilize these funds to obtain the fixed asset. That means the investment will not be in the fixed asset, it will always be in the current assets for the working capital requirement only. Now the big question is, who can invest in commercial papers? Now, every individual can invest in commercial paper. I can invest, you can invest, that means anyone can invest in commercial papers. And even the non-resident Indians can also invest in commercial papers. But when the non-resident Indians invest in commercial papers, it should be remembered that commercial papers should be issued under the Foreign Exchange Management Act, which is commonly known as FEMA of 1999. Banking companies can also invest in commercial papers, and even the foreign institutional investors are free to invest in the commercial papers. Now the question arises, who can issue the commercial paper? Till now we have learned that who can invest, now who can issue the commercial papers. Now every financial institution have a right to issue the commercial papers, and the corporates have the right. Now the question arises, does all the corporates have a right? So does all the organization or means corporate have a right to issue the commercial papers, or we can say, are they in the position to issue the commercial papers? So the answer is no. Not every organization or every corporate have a right or they are in a position to issue the commercial papers. Only those organizations who are reputed, that means blue chip companies, have a right to issue the commercial papers. Plus the second condition is, all these companies who want to issue the commercial paper should have a good rating, and these rating must be obtained through the credit rating agencies. And if the companies does not have a good rating which is given by the credit rating agencies, they cannot issue their commercial papers. Some of the credit rating agencies are CRISIL, Care Rating, ICRA, and there are many more. Some of the credit rating agencies are registered under SEBI and some are not. So the precondition to issue the commercial paper is, first there should be a reputed organization, or you can say they should be a blue chip companies. Second condition is they should have a good credit rating issued by these credit rating agencies. Third condition is, all those organizations who want to borrow money with the help of commercial papers, or I can say who want to issue commercial papers, their tangible net worth should be at least not less than 4 crores. That means whenever they are issuing the commercial papers, their last audited balance sheet should show their net worth of minimum of rupees 4 crores. And whenever these companies are getting the rating from these credit rating agencies, the credit rating should not be less than P2, A2, PP2, Ind.D.2. That means whatever the credit rating they are getting from these credit rating agencies should be higher than this. It can be A1, A1 plus. So depending on the credit rating agencies, what they are going to give it. And whenever they are getting the credit rating from these agencies should be the approved one. And these credit rating agencies must have given the rating not before than 2 months. For example, if any organization want to issue, let's say the organization want to issue the commercial paper on 1st January 2022. So that means they must have obtained the credit rating from credit rating agencies such as CRISIL, Care and ICRA not before then 1st November 2021. If they have obtained the rating before 1st November 2021, they cannot issue the commercial papers. The rating must be obtained within the 2 months of issuing the commercial papers. Now the question arises why these commercial papers are issued. Now, as we have already learned that the commercial papers are issued for the short-term funds, if we are not going to issue commercial papers, the funding can be done by way of bank overdraft, or you can say the creditors is one of the option for short-term funds, or you can say that I can borrow it from the bank loan. So that means the options were limited. Now, commercial papers bring borrower a large quantum of funds. By issuing the commercial papers, these corporations can have the large quantum of funds. Large funds can be borrowed, which is normally not possible for a single bank. So that's why the commercial papers are issued. Commercial papers provide a borrowing options to the highly rated corporates. But over here, do remember it gives the borrowing options only to the highly rated corporates, not to the corporates which does not obtain the high rating from the credit agencies. Few examples is, let's take first example is for Tata Capital Housing Finance Limited. Now, if I see the last commercial paper that is being issued by Tata Housing Finance Limited is on the 28th July 2021. So that means they issued the commercial paper on 28th July 2021 and the maturity period is 25 February 2022. That means it is less than 1 year. They have issued the commercial papers whose maturity period is less than 1 year. And they have taken the credit rating from the companies like CRISIL and ICRA, and they have got the credit rating of A1 plus, which is more than A2. So that means they are eligible to borrow the money with the help of commercial papers. Now, since they have issued the commercial papers on 28th July 2021, so they must have obtained the credit rating after 29th of May 2021. That means whenever you are issuing the commercial papers, your rating should be within the 2 months before issuing the commercial papers. And they got the credit rating agencies from CRISIL on 2nd of July 2021 and from ICRA on 1st of July 2021. That means just before 27 days, so they are eligible. Second company which has recently issued the commercial papers is Adani Enterprise Limited. They issued the commercial papers on 6th October 2021 and the maturity period is 6th of April 2022. That means again they have issued the commercial papers for 7 months. Now, if we talk about the credit rating agencies, their credit rating agencies were BWR and ACU, and they have obtained the A1 plus credit rating from these two companies. And as discussed, they also got the credit rating on 20th September 2021 and 17th September 2021. That means they got the credit rating just, you can say, around 15 days before. So our condition is the credit rating agency must be obtained within 2 months. Third company which we are going to discuss is Century Textile and Industries Limited. Century Textile and Industry Limited issued the commercial papers on 16th July 2021 and the maturity period was 14th of October 2021. So as per the rules, they must also have obtained the credit rating after May 2021. So they also get their credit rating from the agencies like CRISIL and CARE. From the CRISIL also they obtained A1 plus credit rating and from CARE also they got the A1 plus credit rating and they got their rating on 7th July 2021. Fourth company is Godrej Industries Limited. They also issued the commercial paper on 6th January 2022 and their maturity period is 7th of April 2022. That means for a shorter duration of time they have issued the commercial paper and they got the credit rating agencies for their ICRA and CRISIL. They also got A1 plus credit rating from both the companies and they got their rating on 14th of December 2020. 2021, and from CRISIL they obtained on 24th of December 2021, which we can say is within the 1 month of issuing the commercial papers. And we can say that when these commercial papers are issued, they give the options to borrow it from the open market. That means anyone can borrow these commercial papers in the open market. Companies can borrow from the open market. Now only the option of bank was not there. They have another option to borrow it from the open market. Now the biggest question is denominations. Now commercial papers are issued in the multiples of rupees 5 lakh. That means if the company wants rupees 4 lakh, they don't have an authority or they cannot issue the commercial papers. Either they can borrow 5 lakh from the market or 10 lakh or 15 lakh or 20 lakh. That means they can borrow in the multiples of 5 lakh only. Now the benefits of issuing the commercial papers. Now, as we have discussed that previously, for issuing the short-term funds, we have one of the option is bank, and whenever you are borrowing the money from the bank will charge the rate of interest. Now, if you are borrowing the money with the help of commercial papers in the open market, the rate which is to be paid to the investors is less than as compared to banks. So we can say that commercial papers are the cheaper source of funds. Now, companies issue commercial paper for less than its face value and buy back at its face value. It means that suppose the company wants to borrow 5 lakh, so they will sell their commercial papers in the open market by less than rupees 5 lakh. It can be 4 lakh, 4,50,000. So the amount will be less. That means we can say the commercial papers are issued at a discount. And whenever the commercial papers are mature, that means at the time of maturity, company will pay the face value. That means company is going to pay back rupees 5 lakh. And whenever the company is going to pay back the commercial papers at the time of maturity, no grace period will be given to the companies. So I can say that investors will get their time and their money on time. Now these commercial papers are trading in the secondary market. That means suppose you have invested in the commercial papers and you need the money before the maturity period. So you can go to the secondary market and sell your commercial papers and convert your commercial papers into the amount. Now it does not need to be registered with the Securities and Exchange Board of India, that means SEBI, as long as it matures before the 9 months, or you can say 270 days. So there is no need to get it registered under SEBI. Now, whenever there is some benefits, there must be some limitations of the commercial papers also. Now, the first limitation is that these commercial papers can be issued only by few selected blue chip companies. That means all the blue chip companies does not have a right to issue the commercial papers. And only those companies whose profits are there. That means, as we have discussed, that you have to see the last audited balance sheet and the minimum tangible worth should be rupees 4 crore. So if your tangible worth is less than 4 crores, you don't have a right to issue the commercial papers. And by issuing the commercial paper, the credit available from the bank may get reduced. As we have already discussed that commercial papers are benefit. That means commercial papers, by issuing the commercial papers, the cost is reduced. You have to pay less interest. So banks, whenever you are issuing commercial paper, I can say that the credit available from the banks may be reduced. Now, if I talk about one more drawback of the commercial paper is that commercial papers are less reliable than the bank loan. The moment when the money market becomes tight, buyers of the commercial paper switch to more attractive investment. So at this stage, if the company goes to the bank, it is not received favorably. That means that's why we can say that the credit available from the banks may get reduced. And commercial papers, that whenever you are issuing the commercial paper, it is very closely regulated by the RBI guidelines. So that's all for the commercial papers. For further reference, you can refer my book, Financial Management. Thank you.